I knew something was wrong the second my tires crunched up my driveway. It was 10:47 p.m., dark, quiet, the kind of silence you expect after a long flight home. I was exhausted, already imagining collapsing into my own bed. But instead of darkness, I saw light flooding out of every single window of my mansion. It looked like someone had turned my home into a lighthouse. Music, actual music, thumped faintly through the walls. And then my eyes locked onto the car, parked exactly where my car should have been. A white BMW SUV. Not just any BMW. I knew that car. Everyone in the neighborhood knew that car. My stomach twisted. I stepped out of my vehicle slowly, barely daring to breathe. A silhouette moved behind the living room curtains. Someone was walking casually inside my home, like they lived there. My first instinct wasn't fear. It was anger so sharp it made my jaw crack. I didn't even try the front door. Too risky, too exposed. Instead, I slipped around the side of the house to the back entrance. My Aunt Dolores used to say, "The front door is for guests. The back door is for family." And tonight, I didn't feel like family in my own home. The back door felt strange under my fingers, like it had been opened too many times recently. I reached under the loose brick by the garden gate, my aunt's old hiding spot for the spare key. The cold metal touched my hand. My pulse jumped. Before I even turned the handle, a smell drifted out. Thick, floral, expensive perfume. The kind of scent that announces itself 10 seconds before the person wearing it enters a room. I'd only smelled it on one person in this entire neighborhood. Veronica Whitfield, age 52, HOA president, neighborhood tyrant, a woman who treated the HOA like a personal kingdom. Inside, the house smelled like a mix of her perfume and my own violated space. My kitchen was the first thing I saw, and it hit me like a punch. Takeout containers piled on the counters, my wine glasses in the sink, half full. 2 bottles from my private collection opened casually, like someone had just taken a tasting tour. Dirty dishes, napkins, a jacket thrown on a chair, heels kicked off near the rug. Everything looked lived in, used, claimed. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Cybersecurity rule number 1, document first, react later. My living room felt even worse. The throw blanket from my sofa tossed over the armrest. TV remote placed neatly, like someone had put it down mid-watching. A fancy handbag rested on my coffee table. Not mine, not my aunt's, definitely hers. But the shock hit hardest when I walked past the dining room. Candles melted into the tablecloth. Wine stains, crumbs. Someone had hosted an actual dinner party in my home. In my absence, my breath shook. I didn't know if I wanted to yell or laugh at the absurdity. Who does something like this? Then I heard it. Running water, upstairs. Someone showering, in my bathroom, in my shower, and they were singing. Off-key. Loud, confident. I moved upstairs slowly, each step creaking like it was warning me to turn back. Steam seeped through the crack of my bathroom door. I could see the blurred shape of a woman through the frosted glass, completely relaxed, hands on hips, as if she owned everything around her. The anger in my chest snapped into clarity. Veronica! The singing stopped instantly. The water didn't. There was a beat of silence so heavy it felt like the house held its breath. Then she shrieked, "Marcus! You're not supposed to be back yet." Yet. She really said yet. A few minutes later, she cracked the door open and stepped out, wrapped tightly in my thick bathrobe. Her hair dripped water across my hardwood floor. She clutched the robe at her chest with wide eyes, like she was the victim and I was the one invading. "Marcus, I can explain," she said, breathless. "Oh, I'm sure you can," I replied, lifting my phone so she could see the recording. She tried to stand taller, but panic flickered across her face. "There was a break-in scare," she declared. "I was protecting your property." "In my shower?" I asked calmly. There were hygiene concerns. I stared at her, waiting for her to realize how ridiculous she sounded. She didn't. Instead, she doubled down. "The HOA has emergency caretaker authority over vacant homes." "Oh?" The authority that doesn't exist. Before she could backpedal, a toilet flushed. Both of us froze. The guest bathroom door swung open, and Officer Dave Kowalski, local cop, married father, the guy who waved at every barbecue, stepped out in full police uniform. He froze like he'd walked into the wrong movie set. Everything okay here, Veronica?" he asked. Not Marcus, not sir, not even, "Hey, just Veronica." The entire situation clicked together like puzzle pieces snapping into place. She hadn't just moved into my house. She'd brought police backup. She was confident, too confident. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned. "Dave," I said quietly, "why are you inside my house?" He swallowed hard. She said you gave permission." "Did I give you permission?" Silence. Veronica rushed forward. "Marcus is twisting this. I have paperwork." She actually ran into my home office like she owned the place. She yanked open a folder and shoved a document into my hands. An official-looking agreement, supposedly signed by me. Emergency Property Oversight Agreement. My name. My signature. Except it wasn't. Wrong pen pressure. Wrong curves. Wrong everything. A toddler could have forged it better. "This is fake," I said. Her face twisted. "How dare you accuse—" "Dave," I interrupted, "you entered a private residence in uniform. No warrant, no permission." His face drained of color. "Marcus, listen." "No," I said, lifting my recording phone. "You listen." That was the moment she realized she had lost control. The entitlement drained from her face. The confidence cracked, her voice trembled. "Marcus, please, let's be reasonable." They left fast. Dave tripped over his own shoe. Veronica clutched my robe like it was her last lifeline, and when the door finally closed, the silence that filled the house didn't feel like peace. It felt like violation, a deep, humiliating violation. I sat on my bed where someone else had slept, and stared at the ceiling. My home felt foreign, wrong, tampered with, like someone had peeled the walls open and crawled inside the wiring of my life. This wasn't just a boundary crossed. This was a full invasion. She'd lived here, used everything, hosted people, disabled my security system, forged my signature, used a police officer to protect her lie, all because she believed she had the power to do whatever she wanted. But she had no idea who she'd messed with, because I wasn't just a homeowner who got lucky enough to inherit a mansion. I was a cybersecurity specialist, a professional document examiner, someone who built a career catching liars who thought they were smarter than everyone else. And Veronica had just declared war. She just didn't know yet. I was going to win. The next morning started with the kind of silence that feels heavy, like the house itself was ashamed. I hadn't slept. I'd spent most of the night wandering from room to room, recording everything. Every glass, every shoe, every trace of the life she'd lived here without me. I didn't want to touch anything. I didn't want to sit or lean or even breathe too deeply. It all felt contaminated, like I was walking through a stranger's old Airbnb. At 7:12 a.m., the doorbell rang, and the sound jolted through my chest. I froze, half expecting Veronica to be back ready to perform some dramatic stunt. Instead, when I opened the door, my neighbor Beth stood there, holding a casserole and wearing the expression of someone who had been waiting for this moment for a long time. "Oh, thank God you're home," she whispered quickly, pushing inside without waiting. "I was worried you wouldn't find out soon enough." That sentence alone told me she knew everything. She set the casserole on my counter, then turned slowly, eyes scanning the mess like she was connecting crimes to evidence. "She told everyone," Beth said. "Told the entire block you were renting the place to her." I blinked. "Renting to her?" "She said you needed the money, after the divorce, and that she was doing you a favor." I almost laughed. It came out sounding like choking. Beth stepped closer, her voice dropping. "She threw a dinner party here last Thursday. 8 people. She ordered catered food and bragged about managing luxury properties. I thought something was off, but she lies with such confidence you start doubting yourself. My stomach twisted. That explained the candle wax, the crumbs, the stacked wine glasses. She's been targeting you, Beth continued, ever since you moved in. And to be honest, you weren't the first. That part made me pause. What do you mean I'm not the first? Beth looked toward the window as if checking for spies. She's done this with other homes. Any time someone leaves for more than a few days, vacation, business, hospital stay, she moves herself in. Not always physically. Sometimes she just charges emergency oversight fees. Sometimes she uses their yard or pool for community tours. She's been getting away with things for years. How? I asked, because people don't want to fight the HOA. They move away. They let it go. They think it's their fault. Or they don't have proof. I lifted my phone. I have proof. Beth exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for months. Then you might be the one who finally stops her. After she left, I called a locksmith. I wasn't taking chances. By noon, every lock was changed, the garage recoded, and the security system reinstalled. This time, with hidden cameras no one but me would know about. I expected peace to return, but at 2:16 p.m., I found an official-looking envelope taped to my door. HOA letterhead, Veronica's signature at the bottom, bold as ever. Emergency HOA meeting. Tonight at 7 p.m., mandatory appearance required, and below that, a list of accusations against me. Disturbing the peace, harassing a board member, threatening behavior, unauthorized entry into my own property. I stood there laughing bitterly on my porch. She was fast. The kind of fast that meant she had this planned. She was turning the entire thing around on me before I could even organize my thoughts. But I wasn't walking into her meeting blind. At 6:45 p.m., I walked into the community center with my phone fully charged. Every file backed up twice, and a calmness I didn't feel inside. The room smelled like stale coffee and cheap carpet, with folding chairs lined in rows like a church service for the unwilling. Veronica sat in the center of the board table, wearing a navy blazer that shimmered like she'd ironed it specifically to intimidate people. Her cousin Janet sat beside her looking miserable. Two other board members, both clients of her real estate business, sat stiffly, rehearsed and ready. Only one board member, an elderly woman named Gladys, wouldn't make eye contact with her. They had already decided the verdict. Before I even walked in, "Well, Marcus," Veronica began with the condescending tone of a teacher scolding a child, "we've heard troubling reports about your behavior." "My behavior?" I repeated. "Yes," she said with a sigh, as if this entire meeting exhausted her noble spirit. "You entered your home aggressively, threatened a community leader, and tried to intimidate an off-duty police officer. I almost admired the performance." "Which police officer?" I asked lightly. "You mean the one who was using my guest bathroom without permission?" A few neighbors in the back choked on laughter. Veronica slammed her file shut. "Officer Kowalski has given a full statement confirming your erratic behavior." "Oh, great," I said. "Let's hear it." She pushed a paper forward, formal letterhead, written like a police report, painting me as some unhinged maniac screaming, threatening, and creating a disturbance. The board members nodded seriously, as if reading scripture. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" she asked. "I do," I said calmly. "But I'd like to request the bylaw that grants you authority to enter member homes." Veronica froze. "That's irrelevant," she said sharply. "Is it?" I asked. "Which article? Which section?" Paper shuffling. Fake confidence. No answer. One board member whispered, "Do we actually have that rule?" Veronica shot him a warning glare sharp enough to slice concrete. "Emergency authority falls under board discretion," she snapped. "Then show it," I said. "If it exists, show it." The room went quiet. People started leaning in. A crack had formed in her armor, and everyone heard it. But she plowed ahead anyway. "Let's proceed to the vote," she announced. "All in favor of fining Mr. Reed for harassment and imposing a monitoring fee?" "One moment," a voice called. Old Mrs. Gladys stood slowly, hands trembling slightly, eyes never leaving Veronica. "This isn't right," she said. "I've been on this board for 12 years. We never approved anything like what you're claiming. And this isn't the first time you've stretched your power. The room shifted. The board tensed. Veronica's jaw twitched. "Gladys, sit down," she hissed quietly. "No," the old woman said. "Not this time." But she was outvoted. 4-1. Just like Veronica orchestrated, I walked out of the building feeling the weight of injustice, but also something else. Something sharper, stronger. A spark of resolve. They thought this was over. They thought their vote meant victory, but they had no idea what I had in my back pocket. The next morning, I met with attorney Sarah Morgan. Her office smelled like leather and legal trouble, the good kind. She listened quietly, barely blinking as I laid out everything. The forged document, the cop, the dinner parties, the lies. When I finished, she leaned back with a soft whistle. "They picked the wrong guy. Let's destroy them." She started by reading the community bylaws, and in less than 15 minutes, she found what I suspected. 0 emergency caretaker authority, 0 board power to occupy homes, 0 justification for fines without proper votes. Then her eyebrows rose. "She's been charging unauthorized fees for years," Sarah whispered. "This board is a goldmine of violations." I pulled out my phone. I also recovered my security footage. We watched it together. 10 days' worth. Veronica walking in and out like she owned the place, touring people through my kitchen, drinking my wine, using my pool, hosting parties with catered food, even photographing the interior of my home like it was a real estate listing. Sarah shook her head in disbelief. "This isn't just trespassing. This is fraud. Property misuse. Possibly even a racketeering pattern." She asked, "Do you want to go civil or criminal?" I answered without hesitation. "Both." While we planned our case, the harassment escalated instantly. Anonymous tips were sent to the city inspector claiming my home office violated zoning laws. He showed up unannounced, clipboard in hand, but found nothing wrong, except for the fact someone clearly knew where everything in my house was located, even the hidden rooms. Social media gossip exploded. Posts accusing me of being unstable, aggressive, dangerous. Accusations that I had screamed at Veronica, that I had tried to break in, that I was disrespectful to community leadership. Then Officer Dave's buddies began slow driving past my house repeatedly. Patrol cars moved slowly like sharks inspecting a boat. Not stopping, just circling. It was all intimidation, and then she went too far. One afternoon, Tyler, my 17-year-old son, walked through the door with a tight expression. "Dad, people at school asked if you're under investigation." I stopped breathing. "What?" "Someone called the school," he said quietly. "Said you're unstable. Said you leave me alone too much." The counselor didn't believe it, but they still had to ask. A few hours later, Child Services knocked on my door. A social worker with sad eyes and an official tone explained she had to investigate a report of a minor being left alone for extended periods. While the parent traveled, I almost laughed. Tyler was 17, responsible, and surrounded by family, neighbors, and emergency contacts. The report was an obvious lie. We gave her everything. School records, schedules, my travel documentation, permission forms, emergency contact lists. Tyler answered questions with the kind of maturity even adults lack. When she left, she said, "I'm sorry. We get false reports sometimes. This one had an agenda." But that was the moment I realized Veronica wasn't just playing HOA politics. She wanted to break me, my reputation, my home, my peace, even my relationship with my son. That line, she crossed it. And she did it proudly. But she forgot one thing: I don't lose. Not when someone tries to take everything I care about. She thought she had power. She had no idea. She had just handed me everything I needed to end her. 3 days after the Child Services visit, I woke up to the buzz of my phone, vibrating non-stop. Text messages poured in from neighbors, screenshots, whispers, warnings. Something was happening. Something big. The HOA chat group, usually dead quiet, was exploding. Emergency board meeting tonight. Veronica says she's presenting evidence. She's trying to expel him from the neighborhood. Expel me. From my own property. It would have been hilarious if it wasn't so absurd. At 5 o'clock, while I was sitting at my desk gathering documents for my attorney, a notification pinged. A private message from Mrs. Glattis, the only board member who'd spoken up for me. Don't go alone tonight. Bring witnesses, and your lawyer if possible. She is planning something. That warning sent a chill crawling up my arms. What else could she possibly throw at me? She'd already broken into my home, forged documents, manipulated a police officer, smeared my name, called child services. What was left? But the answer came sooner than I expected. At exactly 6:42 p.m., as I was getting ready to leave, I heard yelling outside. Not angry yelling, panicked yelling. I stepped out onto my porch to see a crowd gathering around the community center across the street, and in the middle of them stood Veronica. Her blazer was immaculate, her hair perfectly styled, but her hands trembled slightly as she held a thick folder against her chest. She was performing again, soaking in the attention like she was the main character in a courtroom drama. As I approached, voices hushed. People turned. Phones discreetly lifted to record. "Marcus," Veronica said loudly enough for the whole block to hear, "before we begin, I want you to understand that we are here to ensure community safety." I said nothing. Silence is more powerful than arguing with delusion. She opened the folder dramatically. "We've received multiple complaints about your threatening behavior, your suspicious activity, and your unstable state of mind." Gasps fluttered through the crowd like nervous birds. I almost laughed. "Unstable?" She didn't even blink. "The board has unanimously voted—" "Actually," Mrs. Glattis interrupted, stepping forward, "we did not unanimously vote." "You forced that vote through," Veronica glared at her. "Glattis, sit down." "No," the old woman replied firmly. "I'm tired of sitting down for you." People started whispering. The spell of fear Veronica had over them was cracking. I raised my voice, just enough to cut through the noise. "Before you continue, Veronica, I'd like to show everyone something," she smirked. "We won't be entertaining fabricated evidence." I ignored her and connected my phone to the projector the community center used for movie nights. The screen flickered on. A soft murmur spread, and then footage started playing, the living room lights. Veronica strolling inside my home wearing a silk robe, pouring wine, adjusting my thermostat, laying on my couch, brushing her hair in my mirror, giving a tour to guests, sitting at my dining table with a catered spread, laughing, drinking, posing for photos, hosting a party, using my pool. The room fell silent. She dropped her folder. Her mouth opened and closed like she had suddenly forgotten how breathing worked. "This is taken wildly out of context," she said finally, voice cracking. I was performing community oversight." A man in the back shouted, "Oversight doesn't involve drinking a homeowner's wine." Another yelled, "Or swimming in their pool." Someone else added, "Did she seriously invite people over?" The crowd erupted. Phones recorded everything. Officer Dave, standing near the back, looked like he wanted to sink into the carpet and disappear, but I wasn't done. The next clip showed the forged document, zoomed in, contrasted, digitally analyzed. My attorney had labeled the inconsistencies clearly. Wrong angle, wrong pressure, wrong signature style. Notarization stamp mismatched. Then another video clip. The moment she opened my bathroom door wearing my bathrobe, followed by the footage of her yelling when she realized I was recording. People laughed. Not with her, but at her. Her face turned red, then white, then a shade of panic I'd never seen before. "You have no idea what you've done," she hissed at me quietly, voice trembling. "You're going to destroy this community." "No," I said. "You did that yourself." My attorney stepped forward. "Veronica Whitfield, we have already filed a civil claim for trespassing, fraud, property misuse, and harassment." Gasps. "And," she continued, pulling out an envelope, "because you involved a police officer, forged legal documents, and used HOA authority for personal gain. The DA's office has requested further review." That was the moment everything shifted. Heavy, pounding footsteps sounded from outside. 2 men in dark jackets walked in. Not police uniforms. Federal jackets. The entire room inhaled sharply. "Veronica Whitfield?" One agent asked. She tried to stand tall, but her legs wobbled. Yes? You're being taken into custody for questioning regarding fraud, forgery, and possible misuse of municipal authority. What? She shrieked. This is outrageous. I am the HOA president. That's part of the problem, the agent replied. When they took her by the arms, she kicked and screamed, demanding someone record it, threatening lawsuits, yelling about conspiracies. Her voice cracked into wild shrieks as she realized nobody was defending her, not even her cousin, not even the officers she'd manipulated, but the most poetic moment, when the agents walked her past the projector screen, the footage of her lounging in my bathrobe still looping behind her. After they led her outside, the room stayed silent. Then slowly, applause started, tentative at first. Then louder, stronger. People clapped like they were being freed from a tyrant. I didn't smile, not yet. I had learned that real victory doesn't come in applause. Real victory comes in the aftermath. Over the next few weeks, everything unfolded like dominoes falling. Officer Dave was put on suspension pending investigation. The HOA board members tied to her resigned one by one. Neighbors revealed past incidents, intimidation, fake violations, extorted fees. The city launched a full review of the neighborhood's HOA structure, and I focused on rebuilding, fixing the locks, cleaning every inch of the house, replacing items she'd used, installing a security system layered like a fortress. One evening, while reorganizing my aunt's old study, I found her handwritten note tucked into a book. Take care of this home. It will take care of you. I sat down slowly, feeling something warm settle in my chest. For the first time since the nightmare began, the house felt like mine again. But the best moment happened a month later, during the community's special election meeting. I wasn't planning to run for anything. I had my job, my son, and a life outside HOA politics. But as the meeting started, someone nominated me. Then another person seconded it. Then another. Then the whole room applauded. I stood there, stunned. Beth leaned forward and whispered, "You earned it." I didn't give a speech. I didn't make promises. I just said, "I'll do my best." The neighborhood smiled. The tension that once poisoned every block finally dissolved. Later that night, sitting on my porch with Tyler, watching the quiet street under warm porch light, he nudged me gently. "You actually did it," he said. "You beat her." I thought about everything. The shower, the forged documents, the screaming, the lies, the fear. "No," I said quietly. "She defeated herself. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see it," he chuckled. "Pretty dramatic, Dad. Comes with age," I replied. The wind rustled through the trees. The house hummed softly, warm and alive again. The chaos was gone. Peace had finally returned, and as I looked out over my property, my home, my future, I realized something simple but powerful. Power isn't about control. It's about responsibility and respect, and doing what's right, even when someone tries everything to tear you down. In the end, truth always wins, and sometimes it just needs a camera, a lawyer, and a stubborn homeowner who refuses to be bullied.